The great hall stretched out like a metal ocean under the artificial stars of Nexus Prime. Representatives from 47 different worlds sat in their designated seats, each species bringing their own strange forms and customs to the quarterly Galactic Council meeting. The air buzzed with translation devices working overtime to convert thousands of different languages into something everyone could understand. Admiral Hyunwoo adjusted his scaled uniform and looked around the chamber with barely hidden contempt. His reptilian features showed the confidence of a being who had conquered 12 systems for the Valkyrian Empire. His yellow eyes scanned the other delegates, noting their weakness, their soft diplomatic ways. These creatures had grown fat and lazy on peace treaties and trade agreements. The Valkyrian delegation grows impatient, Commander Jiho whispered beside him. The younger officer's ambition showed in every movement. He wanted war, wanted glory, wanted his name written in the history books of their empire. Hyunwoo nodded slowly. They had come here for one purpose, to claim new territories for their expanding empire. The Outer Rim systems held rich resources, and Valkyrian industry needed those materials. These council meetings were just formalities, ways to pretend they cared about galactic law. The chamber fell silent as Elder Tae-min rose from his seat. The ancient ethereal being floated rather than walked, his translucent form glowing with soft blue light. He had been alive for over 2,000 years and served as the council's keeper of historical records. When he spoke, even the most arrogant delegates usually listened. My fellow beings, Taemin's voice carried clearly through the translation systems. Before we discuss new territorial claims, I must speak of danger. Hyunwoo rolled his eyes. Another boring lecture about ancient history. The old creature always found reasons to delay progress. There exists a region of space that must remain forbidden to all galactic civilization, Taemin continued. A small system in Sector 7G orbiting a yellow star. The third planet is called Earth by its inhabitants. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Many delegates had never heard of this world before. It wasn't listed in any major trade routes or military databases. 3 times in the past century, advanced civilizations have attempted to claim this region, Taemin said. His form grew brighter as he accessed ancient memory files. 3 times entire fleets have been completely destroyed. A holographic display appeared above the center of the chamber. It showed the twisted remains of massive warships floating in the darkness of space. The metal had been torn apart, melted and scattered like leaves in a storm. The Zephyrian Armada attacked first 100 years ago, Taemin explained. 500 ships equipped with the finest weapons technology of their time. Not one vessel returned home. The hologram shifted, showing different wreckage. These ships looked more advanced, their designs sleek and deadly. 60 years later, the Mordian Empire sent their grand fleet. They had studied the Zephyrian defeat and came prepared with new strategies, better shields, more powerful weapons. Again, complete annihilation. A third image appeared, showing the most recent destruction. The ships in this debris field were clearly from a highly advanced species, with energy weapons and defensive systems that outclassed anything most council members had ever seen. 23 years ago, the Krell hegemony made their attempt, Taemin said. They brought world crackers, planet killers, weapons capable of destroying entire solar systems. They transmitted their confidence right up until the moment their signals went silent forever. Captain Dong Hyun, sitting behind Hyunwoo, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The images of destroyed fleets made his stomach turn. But Admiral Hyunwoo just laughed. Respectfully, Elder Taemin, Hyunwoo said, standing up so his voice would carry through the chamber. These stories sound like superstition. 3 different fleets destroyed by primitive aliens. It seems more likely they encountered natural phenomena, space storms, gravitational anomalies, equipment failures. I have studied the survivors' reports, Taemin replied calmly. Yes, there were survivors. A few escape pods, damaged long-range scouts, ships that fled before the main battles. They all tell the same story. The hologram changed again, showing a blue and green planet that looked peaceful and beautiful. White clouds swirled over vast oceans and brown continents. It appeared completely harmless. The inhabitants of Earth appear primitive by our standards, Taemin admitted. They have not achieved faster than light travel. Their weapons use chemical explosives and simple projectiles. They have no energy shields, no plasma cannons, no gravitic manipulation. Then how could they possibly threaten modern warships? Jiho asked, unable to hide his skepticism. That is precisely the question that has haunted me for decades, Taemin answered. The survivors speak of impossible tactics, of humans who seemed to anticipate every move, who turned superior technology against itself. They describe beings who fight not just to win, but to ensure their enemies can never threaten them again. Hyunwoo waved his clawed hand dismissively. Elder, with respect for your age and wisdom, I believe you have been listening to too many ghost stories. The survivors you mention were probably traumatized by whatever natural disasters befell their fleets. Primitive aliens could never stand against modern military science. Other delegates began murmuring agreement. The idea that backward creatures could defeat advanced space fleets seemed ridiculous. Many species in the Council had similar primitive worlds in their own territories, and conquest had always been simple and straightforward. I have brought physical evidence, Taemin said quietly. The hologram shifted once more, showing close-up images of weapon damage on the destroyed ships. The metal had been penetrated by what looked like simple kinetic projectiles, but the patterns were wrong. The holes were too precise, too perfectly placed to disable critical systems. These impacts were not random, Taemin explained. Every shot hit exactly where it would cause maximum damage. Power cores, shield generators, life support systems, weapon batteries. The humans somehow knew exactly where to aim on ships they had never seen before, using weapons that should not have been able to penetrate advanced armor. Coincidence, Hyunwoo declared. Lucky shots in the chaos of battle. Thousands of lucky shots? Taemin asked. Across 3 different fleets 60 years apart, each using completely different ship designs and defensive systems? The chamber fell silent. Even the most skeptical delegates had to admit that much coincidence seemed impossible. Taemin's form pulsed with sad ancient light. I have added Earth's region to the official quarantine zones list. No council member is permitted to enter that system or the surrounding star clusters. This is not a request or a suggestion. It is a law, written in the blood of 3 dead civilizations. Admiral Hyunwoo stood again, his scaled face showing pure contempt. The Velkarian Empire does not recognize this so-called quarantine. We claim Sector 7G and all surrounding systems for our expansion. If primitive aliens stand in our way, they will be swept aside like all the others. Admiral, Taemin said, his voice heavy with sorrow. Please reconsider. Your empire is mighty, your fleets are powerful, but so were the others. Pride has been the downfall of every species that ignored this warning. Pride? Hyunwoo laughed harshly. No, Elder, this is not pride. This is reality. The Velkarian military machine has conquered every enemy we have ever faced. We have weapons that can crack planets, shields that can deflect stars, and strategies proven across 1,000 battles. Some backward aliens with primitive projectile weapons are not going to stop the inevitable march of progress. He turned to address the entire chamber. When we return from Earth with our cargo holds full of their resources, perhaps then the Council will understand the difference between wisdom and cowardice. The Velkarian delegation filed out of the chamber, ignoring the worried looks from other species. As they left, Elder Taemin floated alone at the center of the Great Hall, staring at the holographic image of Earth still hanging in the air. 4 civilizations will have learned the truth about that world, he whispered to himself. I fear only one will survive to tell the tale. The massive shipyards of Scaros stretched across 3 moons, their metal frameworks glowing red-hot as thousands of workers assembled the greatest fleet in Velkarian history. Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station, watching welding sparks dance like stars in the darkness. Each flash represented another weapon being installed, another system being upgraded, another step toward inevitable victory. 847 ships, Commander Jiho reported, his voice filled with excitement. More firepower than any single species has ever assembled. The humans won't even have time to surrender before we glass their entire planet. Hyunwoo nodded with satisfaction. 6 months of preparation had transformed his original invasion plan into something magnificent. Dreadnoughts that could crack continents floated alongside fast attack craft, designed for orbital superiority. Troop transports waited to deliver ground forces, while support vessels carried enough supplies for a year-long campaign. Admiral, a new voice interrupted their celebration. They turned to see General Su Jin approaching with a datapad in her hands. The head of Velkarian military intelligence looked tired, her usually perfect uniform wrinkled from long hours in the analysis centers. General, Hyunwoo acknowledged her, with barely hidden irritation. Su Jin had been questioning his invasion plans for weeks, always finding new reasons for caution. I trust you have come to congratulate us on this magnificent achievement. I have concerns, Sujin said bluntly. She activated her data pad, projecting holographic reports into the air between them. My intelligence teams have been studying Earth's history, and we have discovered some troubling patterns. The hologram showed images of human warfare throughout their development. Primitive armies clashed with swords and spears, then progressed to gunpowder weapons, industrial warfare, and finally nuclear devastation. Look at their conflict history, Sujin urged. These creatures have been fighting each other constantly for their entire recorded civilization. They don't just win wars, they perfect the art of killing. Jiho laughed. Primitive tribal warfare. What does that matter against plasma cannons and energy shields? Sujin changed the display, showing more recent human conflicts. This is what they call World War II. 60 million humans died in 6 years. They developed new weapons, new tactics, new strategies for mass destruction, and this was with technology barely advanced beyond chemical explosives. The images shifted to show jungle warfare in a place called Vietnam. Technologically superior forces defeated by guerrilla tactics. The humans learned to fight enemies with better weapons and won through adaptation and determination. Ancient history, Hyunwoo dismissed. Show me their current military capability. The hologram changed to show human space vessels. They looked crude and bulky compared to sleek Valkyrian designs. Chemical rockets pushed metal boxes through space at pathetically slow speeds. Their fastest ships take months to travel between planets in their own system. Sujin admitted. They have no energy weapons, no defensive shields, no faster-than-light capability. By every technical measure, they should be helpless against us. Then why are you wasting my time? Hyunwoo demanded. Because something doesn't add up, Sujin replied. If humans are so primitive, how did they destroy 3 advanced fleets? I've been analyzing the wreckage data from Elder Taemin's records, and the weapon signatures don't match what we know about human technology. She pulled up technical specifications, showing the damage patterns on destroyed alien ships. These impacts were made by kinetic projectiles, yes, but traveling at impossible velocities. Simple bullets don't punch through quantum-bonded armor plating. Tech specialist Young Ho joined their conversation, his excitement obvious. General Sujin, I've solved that problem. I've developed new plasma burst weapons specifically designed to counter primitive kinetic attacks. Even if humans somehow accelerate their projectiles to extreme speeds, our new defensive matrices will vaporize them before they can reach our hulls. He activated his own display, showing sleek new weapon systems being installed across the fleet. EMP generators to disable their electronic systems, gravitational scramblers to disrupt their crude guidance systems, and plasma fields that can melt incoming projectiles while they're still kilometers away. You see, General? Hyunwoo said with smug satisfaction. While you worry about ancient ghost stories, we prepare for every possibility. Young Ho's innovations will ensure that even if the humans have some primitive surprises, they will be utterly useless against modern Valkyrian technology. Sujin shook her head. You're not listening. The weapon signatures from the destroyed fleet suggest something far more advanced than simple kinetic weapons. Some of the damage shows molecular disruption, quantum-level interference, technologies that humans shouldn't possess. Then where are these advanced weapons? Jiho challenged. Our scouts have surveyed their system repeatedly. We see no evidence of advanced manufacturing, no energy signatures from powerful weapons, no defensive installations beyond their primitive space stations. Maybe they're hidden, Sujin suggested quietly. The suggestion hung in the air like a bad smell. Advanced stealth technology was theoretically possible, but required massive energy expenditures and sophisticated engineering. The humans showed no signs of either capability. Young Ho pulled up long-range sensor data from Valkyrian scout ships. I've analyzed every electromagnetic emission from Earth's system for the past year. Their energy output is exactly what we would expect from a pre-FTL civilization. Chemical power plants, primitive nuclear reactors, solar collectors, nothing that could power the kind of advanced weapons General Sujin is suggesting. Exactly, Hyunwoo agreed. The General sees shadows where none exist. The previous fleets were probably destroyed by natural phenomena, and the survivors invented stories about human resistance to cover their own failures. Sujin tried one more time. Admiral, I'm begging you to reconsider. At minimum, let me send a small reconnaissance force to test their defenses before committing the entire fleet. Absolutely not, Hyunwoo declared. The Velkarian Empire does not show weakness by sending advanced scouts to cower at primitive aliens. We arrive in force. We demand surrender. And when they refuse, we demonstrate the price of defying a superior civilization. He turned to address the entire command staff gathered on the observation deck. Gentlemen, in 72 hours we depart for Earth. History will remember this day as the beginning of Velkarian dominance over the entire Outer Rim. Those resources will fuel our expansion for the next century. The officers cheered, their voices echoing through the metal corridors. Only Su Jin remained quiet, staring at the intelligence reports that nobody else wanted to read. Later that evening, she sat alone in her quarters, reviewing the data one more time. 3 destroyed fleets, each more advanced than the last. The Krell hegemony had brought planet crackers, weapons capable of turning entire worlds into cosmic dust. Yet somehow primitive humans had defeated them completely. She accessed the deepest intelligence files, records that few Velkarians were authorized to see. Hidden among diplomatic reports and trade agreements, she found references to other species that had encountered Earth. Not direct military contact, but merchant vessels that had detected strange energy signatures, scientific expeditions that had observed impossible gravitational anomalies, deep space monitoring stations that had recorded unexplained communications from the human system. All of these reports had been dismissed or ignored by their respective governments. Earth appeared primitive, therefore it must be primitive. The logic seemed unshakable except for one terrible fact. 3 entire fleets had died believing exactly the same thing. Su Jin made her decision. Tomorrow she would file an official protest against the invasion, requesting a delay until more intelligence could be gathered. She knew it would be rejected, but at least there would be a record that someone had tried to prevent the disaster she felt approaching like a dark storm. Outside her window, the Great Fleet continued its preparations. Weapon systems were tested and retested, shields calibrated to maximum power, troop transports loaded with enough firepower to conquer a dozen worlds. Every system showed green. Every test passed with flying colors. The Velkarian war machine was ready to march, and Admiral Hyunwoo's pride would accept nothing less than total victory. In 72 hours, they would learn whether primitive humans could stand against the might of an advanced galactic civilization. Su Jin stared at her reports and prayed to the ancient gods that she was wrong about everything. But deep in her heart, she knew that prayer would not be answered. The great Velkarian fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Jupiter's orbit with the precision of a military drill. 847 warships emerged from the impossible distances between stars, their hulls gleaming under the light of Earth's yellow sun. Admiral Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical displays fill with green dots representing his armada. "Fleet status report," he commanded, his scaled hands gripping the command rail with satisfaction. "All ships reporting ready status," Commander Ji-ho announced from his position at the communications station. Weapons charged, shields at maximum power, troop transport standing by for planetary assault. Captain Dong-hyun monitored the sensor arrays from his post near the navigation console. The readings showed exactly what their intelligence had predicted, a primitive system with crude technology and no apparent defenses. Earth's electromagnetic signature indicated basic nuclear power, simple radio communications, and chemical rockets that moved like slow insects between the inner planets. "Sir," Dr. Yoon-ji called from her xenobiology station, "I'm intercepting human communications. They appear to be using primitive radio waves for most of their transmissions. Can you translate their language?" Hyunwoo asked. "Working on it now, Admiral. They seem to have multiple languages, but I'm detecting some common patterns." Her equipment hummed as it processed the alien sounds. "I should have basic translation capability within the hour." Hyunwoo nodded. Standard procedure called for demanding surrender before beginning bombardment. Even primitive species deserved the chance to submit to superior forces, though he doubted these humans would be intelligent enough to recognize their hopeless situation. "Begin approach to the inner system," he ordered. "Battle formation, shields up, weapons ready." The massive fleet moved forward like a steel tide. Dreadnoughts and battle cruisers formed the center column, their planet-cracking weapons aimed at the blue world that grew larger on their screens. Fast attack ships spread out in protective formations, ready to intercept any desperate counterattack. Support vessels hung back, prepared to begin resource extraction once the humans surrendered or were eliminated. As they passed the orbit of Mars, Captain Dong-hyun frowned at his sensor readings. "Admiral, I'm detecting some unusual electromagnetic patterns from the inner system. Very faint but consistent. Explanation?" Hyun-woo demanded. "Unknown, sir. It could be natural phenomena, solar interference, or..." He paused, rechecking his instruments. "Or very sophisticated stealth technology." Commander Ji-ho laughed from his station.
Stealth technology?
"From creatures who still use chemical rockets, Captain. I think you need to recalibrate your sensors." But Dr. Yoonji looked up from her communications array with a puzzled expression. "Admiral, I'm getting more human transmissions. Something doesn't seem right about their content." "Explain." "I expected panic, sir. Calls for help, emergency broadcasts, evacuation orders. Instead, I'm detecting what appears to be excitement, anticipation, almost like they're preparing for a celebration." Hyun-woo dismissed her concern with a wave of his clawed hand. Primitive minds often react strangely to situations they cannot understand. Continue monitoring their communications. The fleet continued its inexorable advance toward Earth. Long-range scanners showed the planet in detail now. White clouds swirling over vast blue oceans. Brown and green continents that promised rich mineral resources. A few small space stations orbited the world. Clearly civilian facilities with no visible weapons. "Sir," Captain Dong-hyun's voice carried sharp alarm. "I'm reading massive energy spikes throughout the system. Multiple signatures appearing everywhere at once." Before Hyun-woo could respond, space around them erupted into deadly light. Hidden weapons platforms, invisible until the moment they fired, revealed themselves throughout the solar system. What the Valkyrians had taken for empty space suddenly blazed with the fire of dozens of military installations. Kinetic projectiles moving at impossible velocities slammed into the leading edge of the Valkyrian formation. "Shields!" Ji-ho shouted, but it was too late. The first projectiles punched through Valkyrian energy shields like they didn't exist. Simple chunks of metal, accelerated to nearly the speed of light, tore through quantum-bonded armor plating and detonated inside ship hulls. 23 vessels in the forward formation simply vanished in brief flashes of nuclear fire. "Impossible," Young-ho screamed from his weapons station. "Our shields should stop any kinetic weapon. These projectiles are traveling at..." He checked his readings twice. "Sir, these impacts are showing relativistic velocities. The humans somehow accelerated simple metal slugs to near-light speed." More weapons platforms revealed themselves, emerging from stealth fields that had hidden them perfectly from Valkyrian sensors. The space around Jupiter blazed with defensive installations that shouldn't have existed. Mars' orbit showed similar fortifications, and the asteroid belt itself seemed to be moving in unnatural patterns. "Return fire," Hyun-woo commanded, his composure cracking as he watched his fleet take devastating losses. Valkyrian plasma cannons unleashed their fury at the human weapons platforms. The energy beams struck their targets with the force of small stars, but something was wrong. The human installations absorbed the plasma fire and continued shooting. Their defensive systems adapted in real time, becoming more resistant to each successive attack. Captain Dong-hyun stared at his tactical display in horror. "Admiral, the humans somehow knew our exact shield frequencies. Their weapons are calibrated to penetrate our defenses with maximum efficiency." "That's impossible," Ji-ho protested. "Our shield technology is classified at the highest levels. No primitive species could possess that information." Then, human communications cut through their encrypted channels with crystal clarity. "Welcome to Earth's neighborhood," a calm human voice said in perfect Valkyrian language. "We've been expecting you." The voice belonged to Major Seok Jin of the Human Defense Force, though the Valkyrians didn't know his name yet. His transmission came from a command station hidden inside one of Earth's moons, a facility that their sensors still couldn't detect. "I am Admiral Hyun-woo of the Valkyrian Empire," Hyun-woo replied, trying to maintain his authority despite the chaos erupting around his fleet. "Surrender immediately and your species will be granted mercy." The human's laugh was cold and mechanical through the translation systems. "Admiral, you misunderstand the situation. We're not here to surrender. We're here to give you the same lesson we gave the Zephyrians, the Mordians, and the Krell." More human weapons platforms revealed themselves, emerging from stealth positions throughout the system. Each installation showed technology that shouldn't have existed. energy shields that adapted to incoming fire, kinetic weapons that violated known physics, and sensor arrays that seemed to predict Valkyrian movements before they happened. Commander Jiho's flagship took a direct hit from what appeared to be a simple projectile weapon. The metal slug, no larger than a Valkyrian fist, penetrated his ship's hull and triggered a chain reaction that destroyed the entire vessel in seconds. Jiho barely had time to scream before his ambitions died with him in the nuclear fire. "How is this possible?" Hyun-woo whispered, watching his perfectly planned invasion crumble around him. Captain Dong-hyun, monitoring communication intercepts, provided the terrible answer. "Sir, I'm detecting human transmissions that reference the previous invasions. They're using technical specifications from Zephyrian, Mordian, and Krell equipment. Somehow they've been studying our technology for decades." The human voice cut through their communications again. "You're wondering how primitive aliens could defeat your advanced fleet. The answer is simple: we're not primitive. We've been preparing for your arrival since the day your predecessors first entered our system. More Valkyrian ships died under the impossible human assault. Their weapons couldn't penetrate adaptive human defenses, while human kinetic projectiles tore through Valkyrian armor like paper. The fleet that had seemed invincible just hours before was being systematically dismantled by an enemy that shouldn't have existed. Full retreat. Hyun-woo finally commanded, his pride broken by the reality of absolute defeat. "All ships, emergency hyperspace jump." But as his surviving vessels tried to escape, they discovered their final nightmare. The humans had somehow deployed hyperspace interdiction fields throughout the system. The Valkyrian fleet was trapped, unable to flee, unable to advance, and dying ship by ship under weapons that defied everything they understood about physics and warfare. Commander Minna's voice reached them from her hidden command center. "Admiral, your fleet will be permitted to retreat when we have finished studying your technology. Until then, you are guests in our system. We suggest you make yourselves comfortable." Captain Dong-hyun looked at his commander with eyes filled with terror. "Sir, we've lost over 200 ships in less than an hour. The humans aren't just defending their world. They're hunting us." Admiral Hyun-woo stared at the tactical display showing his decimated fleet and finally understood the truth that Elder Taemin had tried to tell him. The humans hadn't just defeated 3 previous invasions. They had learned from each one, preparing for the next attack with methodical precision. The hunters had become the hunted, and the trap had been 30 years in the making. Admiral Hyun-woo regrouped his surviving forces near Saturn's rings, using the ice and debris as cover from the relentless human attacks. What remained of his once mighty fleet huddled together like frightened animals, their crews shocked and demoralized by losses that should have been impossible. "Status report," he demanded, though he dreaded the answer. Captain Dong-hyun consulted his damaged displays with shaking hands. 412 ships destroyed or missing, sir. We've lost 60% of our fleet in 3 days of fighting." The numbers hit like physical blows. Hyun-woo had expected to lose perhaps a dozen vessels in the entire campaign, acceptable casualties for claiming an entire system. Instead, he was watching the systematic destruction of Valkyrian naval power. "How are they doing this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Yoonji looked up from her analysis station, her face pale with exhaustion. "Admiral, I've been studying the human attacks and their technology makes no sense. Their weapons appear simple, but they demonstrate capabilities that violate known physics." She activated a holographic display showing recent battle footage. A human ship, barely the size of a Valkyrian scout vessel, appeared on screen, moving at impossible speeds. "Watch this," she said, highlighting the human craft. "This ship accelerates at forces that should crush any biological crew. It changes direction without regard for inertia, and its hull somehow withstands impacts that would destroy our best armor." The footage showed the small human vessel engaging a Valkyrian battlecruiser. The smaller ship danced around the larger one's weapons fire, moving like it wasn't bound by the normal laws of physics. Then, in a maneuver that defied explanation, it fired a single projectile that somehow curved around the battlecruiser's shields and struck its reactor core directly. "The projectile's trajectory is impossible," Yoonji continued. "Simple kinetic weapons don't change course mid-flight. Yet somehow, human ammunition seeks out our weak points like guided missiles." Captain Dong-hyun had been monitoring human communications during the battles. "Sir, I've been analyzing their tactical chatter. They're not just reacting to our movements. They're anticipating them. It's like they know our battle plans before we do." A new alarm sounded on the bridge. Long-range sensors detected approaching ships, but the signatures were wrong. The vessels appeared to be Valkyrian, but they were transmitting human identification codes. Impossible, Hyunwoo muttered, but the evidence appeared on his main screen. Captain Yeonsu's voice crackled through the communication system, speaking perfect Valkyrian despite being obviously human. Her ship, which sensors clearly identified as a captured Valkyrian cruiser, moved with the impossible agility they had come to fear from human vessels. "Admiral Hyunwoo," she said calmly, "I wanted to personally thank you for the generous donation of military hardware. Your ships have been most educational." "That's one of our heavy cruisers," Donghyun said in shock. "The Blade of Victory. It was destroyed 2 days ago." "Apparently not destroyed enough," Yeonsu replied, somehow intercepting their private communications. "Your technology is impressive, Admiral, but it has some interesting weaknesses. Would you like me to demonstrate?" Before Hyunwoo could respond, the captured Valkyrian ship opened fire on his formation. But instead of plasma cannons, it unleashed the same impossible kinetic weapons the humans used. Projectiles that moved too fast and hit too accurately tore through 3 more of his vessels. "She's using our own ship against us," Yoonji observed with horrified fascination. "But she's modified its weapons with human technology. The combination is devastating." More captured Valkyrian ships appeared throughout the system, all flying under human control. The humans weren't just defending their territory. They were converting captured enemy vessels into their own weapons. "Sir," Donghyun reported, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures from Earth's moon. The humans appear to be using it as a weapons platform." The tactical display showed Luna's surface erupting with weapon emplacements. What had appeared to be a barren satellite was actually a massive military installation. Kinetic accelerators the size of mountains launched projectiles toward the Valkyrian fleet, each shot precisely targeted to cause maximum damage. Admiral Hyunwoo watched in horror as more of his ships died under the lunar bombardment. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a weapon, using every planet, moon, and asteroid as part of their defensive network. "We need to retreat to the outer system," he decided, "regroup beyond their weapon range and call for reinforcements." But as the surviving Valkyrian ships tried to withdraw, they discovered another nightmare. Human vessels appeared where sensors showed empty space, emerging from stealth fields that made them completely invisible until they opened fire. "Stealth technology beyond our understanding," Yoonji reported. "They can hide entire fleets from our sensors. We're fighting an enemy we can't even see." One of these invisible human ships materialized directly beside a Valkyrian dreadnought. Before the larger vessel could react, the human ship somehow passed through its shields and collided with its hull. The impact should have destroyed both vessels, but only the Valkyrian ship exploded. "How did they penetrate our shields?" Donghyun asked in amazement. The answer came from an unexpected source. A damaged Valkyrian escape pod was recovered by human forces, and its occupant was returned to the fleet under a flag of truce. Colonel Jae-sung, who had been commanding ground forces for the planned planetary invasion, brought with him intelligence that chilled every Valkyrian to the bone. "They know everything about us," he reported to Admiral Hyunwoo in the flagship's briefing room. "Our shield frequencies, our weapon capabilities, our tactical doctrines. They've been studying wreckage from the previous invasions for decades." He activated a portable display showing images from his brief captivity. Human technicians worked on captured Valkyrian equipment with perfect understanding of its operation. They didn't reverse engineer the technology so much as improve upon it. "Admiral, they didn't capture me to interrogate me," Jae-sung continued. "They captured me to educate me. They showed me recordings of human history, their wars, their methods of warfare. These beings don't just fight to win, they fight to ensure their enemies can never threaten them again." The colonel's hands shook as he accessed more files. They study every enemy completely, learn every weakness, and then develop countermeasures for future encounters. "The humans have been preparing for our specific attack for 30 years. Admiral Hyunwoo stared at the evidence of human preparation. Detailed technical analyses of Valkyrian ships, complete tactical assessments of their battle doctrines, even psychological profiles of their command structure. The humans knew them better than they knew themselves. "Sir," Captain Donghyun interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth." Commander Minna appeared on the main screen, her human features calm and confident. Behind her, banks of monitors showed complete tactical displays of the Valkyrian fleet's current position and status. "Admiral, she said. Your force has been reduced to 312 vessels. At your current rate of loss, your fleet will be completely eliminated in 6 days, 14 hours, and approximately 30 minutes. The precision of her calculation was terrifying. She wasn't making threats or estimates. She was stating mathematical certainty. However, Minna continued, we are prepared to offer terms. Surrender your remaining vessels, and your crews will be returned safely to Valkyrian space in small transport ships. You will carry a message to your government and to the Galactic Council. What message? Hyunwoo asked, his pride finally broken by the reality of absolute defeat. That Earth's region is closed, Minna replied. Permanently. No alien vessel will be permitted to enter our space again. We have tolerated 4 invasions. There will not be a 5th. Admiral Hyunwoo looked around his bridge at the faces of his surviving officers. Captain Dong-hyun stared at tactical displays showing the impossible human technology. Dr. Yoonji studied readings that violated everything she understood about physics. Colonel Jae-sung held intelligence reports that revealed the depth of human preparation and determination. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Hyunwoo faced an enemy he could not defeat, could not understand, and could not escape. The humans had turned his pride into the instrument of his own destruction, and now they offered him the choice between annihilation and humiliation. We need more time to consider your terms, he said finally. You have 12 hours, Minna replied. After that, we resume our demonstration of human hospitality. The transmission ended, leaving the Valkyrian command staff alone with the wreckage of their invasion and the terrible knowledge that they had challenged an enemy far beyond their understanding. Admiral Hyunwoo stood alone in his private quarters, staring out at the remains of his once mighty fleet. Twisted metal and frozen atmosphere drifted past his viewport, the debris of Valkyrian ships that would never return home. In 2 weeks of fighting, he had lost over 700 vessels to an enemy that shouldn't have existed. His pride, the same pride that had brought him to this cursed system, now demanded that he finish what he had started. The humans had offered surrender terms, but accepting them would mean admitting that primitive aliens had defeated the greatest military force in Valkyrian history. A soft chime announced someone at his door. Enter, he called wearily. Captain Dong-hyun stepped into the quarters, his face showing the strain of constant battle. Sir, we've received a message from home. General Soo-jin is en route with reinforcements. Hyunwoo turned sharply. How many ships? 200 vessels, sir. The entire 3rd battle fleet. She'll arrive in 18 hours. For the first time in days, hope flickered in Hyunwoo's chest. Soo-jin's ships would give him enough firepower to activate his final contingency plan. If he couldn't conquer Earth conventionally, he would ensure that no one else ever could. Prepare the planet crackers, he ordered quietly. Dong-hyun's face went pale. Sir, those weapons are designed to destroy entire worlds. The energy release would sterilize everything in this system. Exactly. Hyunwoo's voice carried the cold determination of a being who had sacrificed everything for a war he could not win. If primitive aliens can defeat Valkyrian military science, then they represent a threat to galactic civilization itself. They must be eliminated completely. Admiral, Dong-hyun said carefully, the planet cracker weapons require unanimous agreement from all fleet commanders. It's built into their activation protocols. Then we'll have that agreement, Hyunwoo replied. When Soo-jin arrives with fresh crews who haven't been broken by these human tricks, they'll understand what must be done. 18 hours later, General Soo-jin's reinforcement fleet dropped out of hyperspace near Pluto's orbit. Her ships were fresh, their crews eager for battle, their weapons fully charged. She had come expecting to join a glorious conquest, not to rescue the survivors of a catastrophic defeat. Admiral Hyunwoo, her voice crackled through the communication system. What is your status? Hyunwoo looked at his tactical displays showing the pathetic remains of his invasion force. 127 ships, many of them damaged beyond full combat effectiveness. The fleet that had been the pride of the Valkyrian Empire was now a broken remnant hiding in the outer darkness. We have encountered unexpected resistance, he replied, the words tasting bitter in his mouth. The humans possess technology beyond our intelligence estimates. Soo-jin's flagship moved closer, her sensors analyzing the debris field that stretched throughout the solar system. Admiral, I'm reading wreckage signatures from over 700 vessels. Please tell me these aren't all ours. They are, Hyunwoo admitted. The humans have been preparing for our arrival for decades. They possess weapons and defensive systems that our science cannot explain or counter. A long silence filled the communication channel. When Sujin finally spoke, her voice was heavy with shock and sorrow. Admiral, I'm ordering immediate withdrawal from this system. We must return to Valkyrian space and report these findings to High Command. No, Hyunwoo said firmly. I refuse to retreat in defeat. We will activate the planet crackers and eliminate this threat permanently. Are you insane? Sujin's shock was obvious even through the translation systems. Planet cracker weapons are weapons of last resort. Using them would make us no better than cosmic vandals. These humans represent an existential threat to our empire, Hyunwoo argued. They defeated 3 previous invasion fleets and now they've destroyed most of ours. If we allow them to survive, they'll eventually expand beyond their system and threaten all galactic civilization. Dr. Insu's voice cut through their argument from the human communication networks. The human scientist had been monitoring their transmissions, something that should have been impossible with their encrypted channels. Gentlemen, she said calmly, we need to talk. Before either Valkyrian commander could respond, human ships began appearing throughout the outer system. They emerged from stealth fields like ghosts becoming solid, surrounding Sujin's reinforcement fleet with the same impossible technology that had devastated Hyunwoo's forces. Your planet cracker weapons are impressive, Dr. Insu continued, but we've been studying their technical specifications for the past 20 years. We recovered complete schematics from the Krell wreckage. On his main screen, Hyunwoo watched human ships move with their characteristic impossible agility. They positioned themselves not to attack the Valkyrian vessels, but to escort them toward specific coordinates. What are they doing? Sujin asked over the private channel. The answer became clear as the human ships guided the combined Valkyrian fleets toward the outer edge of the solar system. There, waiting in the cold darkness beyond Pluto's orbit, was a sight that chilled every Valkyrian to their core. Thousands of human vessels filled the space between stars, their hulls gleaming with weapons that defied understanding. But these weren't just ships. They were massive constructions, mobile battle stations the size of small moons, armed with weapons that made Valkyrian planet crackers look like toys. We call them system killers, Dr. Insu explained conversationally. Each one can destroy entire star systems in minutes. We built them specifically to counter threats like yours. Admiral Hyunwoo stared at the impossible human fleet with growing horror. How many? Enough, came the simple reply. Admiral, you came here planning to crack our planet. We've been prepared to crack your entire civilization if necessary. Captain Dong-hyun, who had been monitoring the human ships, made a discovery that shattered his remaining composure. Sir, I'm detecting Valkyrian technology signatures from their weapons. They're using our own planet cracker designs but somehow made them 1,000 times more powerful. The truth hit both Valkyrian commanders simultaneously. The humans hadn't just studied their enemies' weapons, they had improved upon them beyond recognition. Every technological advantage the Valkyrians possessed had been turned against them. You have a choice, Dr. Insu said quietly. Activate your planet crackers and watch us demonstrate why that would be a mistake. Or accept our original terms and leave peacefully. General Sujin, seeing the tactical situation with fresh eyes, made the decision that Admiral Hyunwoo could not. We accept your terms, she transmitted on all frequencies. I do not. Hyunwoo screamed, his pride finally driving him beyond reason. Fire planet crackers. Destroy this cursed world. But as his weapons began charging, human technology revealed its final terrible secret. The planet cracker weapons, designed to be unstoppable forces of destruction, suddenly turned their targeting systems toward the Valkyrian fleet itself. How? Hyunwoo whispered as he watched his own ultimate weapons prepare to destroy him. Dr. Insu's voice carried sad finality. We've had 20 years to study these devices, Admiral. Every system, every circuit, every line of code. Did you really think we couldn't reprogram them? The planet crackers fired, but instead of destroying Earth, they unleashed their fury upon the Valkyrian fleet. Ships that had survived 2 weeks of impossible human attacks were vaporized instantly by their own weapons. The energy release was so tremendous that it could be seen from the inner planets. Admiral Hyunwoo had just enough time to understand the absolute magnitude of his defeat before his flagship joined the expanding cloud of superheated plasma. His pride, his arrogance, and his refusal to acknowledge superior opponents had led him to destruction by his own hand. General Su Jin, commanding the only surviving Valkyrian vessel, watched the annihilation in stunned silence. The humans had allowed her to live for one purpose: to carry word of this defeat back to the Galactic Council. Commander Minna's image appeared on her screen one final time. General, you will return to your people with a message. Earth's region is permanently closed to all alien contact. Any vessel that enters our space will be destroyed without warning. We have demonstrated that we possess both the capability and the will to defend ourselves against any threat. Sujin nodded numbly, her military training overriding her shock. Understood. We will transmit your warning to all galactic civilizations. See that you do, Minna replied. And General, tell them that we know they're out there. We've been monitoring galactic communications for decades. We know about your empires, your technologies, your expansion patterns. We are not interested in joining galactic civilization, but we will not tolerate any further attempts at conquest. The single surviving Valkyrian ship began its long journey home, carrying with it the news that would change the galaxy forever. Behind it, the impossible human fleet faded back into stealth, leaving only empty space and the slowly cooling debris of another failed invasion. The trap had finally closed completely, and the hunters had learned the ultimate lesson about the danger of underestimating their prey.